Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I'm bringing to you guys is a video on the best ways that you can prepare for New World's April update. Now at the day of recording this, it's a couple of days out from the update, so when you guys are seeing this, if you're watching it as it goes up, we're still anticipating this update, but if you are watching it after the update has gone live, these tips will still apply because these are mainly going to be focused on some of the most important changes that are going to affect gameplay. So of course, once this patch and update actually comes into fruition, these kind of things are going to be something you certainly want to be aware of post update as well as before the update. These are going to be things that you can do by adjusting your gameplay, saving things until the update has dropped, and certain things that you will want to do when we actually get hands-on with the update. So there's a few different perspective tips here. Now, obviously, this update is mostly focused on QOL, balance changes, bug updates, that sort of thing. But that being said, these are a few of my top things that you want to be watching out for with this update. Hopefully, this video does help a lot of you out. And if there is anything that I forget to mention in this video that you would have included, whether it be a tip, a trick of something that's upcoming, or just a piece of information that's going to be useful, then do feel free to drop that down below in the comments for everybody to have a look at as well. And other than that, if you are new to the channel and you haven't already done so, please do make sure that you drop in a subscribe down below with the notification bell on. And if you do go on to enjoy the video, find it useful, then do drop me a like as well, as both of those things massively help to support my content. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, my first one here is going to be looking at the transfers, and as you will see on the store, when this update goes live, we're going to be having both server transfers and regional transfers. Now, I made a video covering these yesterday, so if you do want to know any information on how that works, all the FAQs, all the ins and outs of it, you can go ahead and refer to that one. But essentially, they're going to be $15 per one, and that is the same price. You purchase a transfer token, and you can use it for a server transfer or a region transfer. Now, this tip is actually going to be relating to if you still have a free transfer token available. You will see it down here on the character transfer tab. If you click in, you can see here I actually don't have any, but if you do, and you are somebody that wants to transfer region, these free transfer tokens that we were given can actually be used to transfer to a different region once this update comes out as well. So do keep it for that, as that is going to be a little added bonus if you do have one and you are someone that's been waiting for it. Now, the next thing that I'm going to cover here is a rough guide on the weapon changes, and I'm just going to roughly tell you guys whether these have been buffed, whether they've been nerfed, or whether they've pretty much stayed the same, or whether it's specific perks, that kind of thing, that have actually been changed with each of these weapons, so that you can prepare yourself whether you want to tweak your build a little bit, or maybe you want to use a slightly different weapon. Then this should give you a quick lowdown on that. But generally, there's not too many massive changes, so it is just going to be slight differences that you might want to be aware of going into this update. So firstly, the bow, we've had a slight buff, but as they addressed in the dev update video, they are planning to do a lot more work on this bad boy. So even though it's not been greatly changed with this patch, do keep your eyes on this one, as it is going to change a lot over the next few weekly updates. And of course, the May update as well, I would expect, is going to include quite a bit of bow changes, as it is something that they want to bring up to scratch with the rest of the weapons. So bow users, we will get there eventually for you. Now, moving nextly onto the blunderbuss, mostly it has stayed the same, with much more consistency being added to the weapon overall, which is what we can expect after a new release. But one thing to note is that refreshing move, which you were able to get on some of the end game drops, some of the legendary drops, etc., has been removed, as it was deemed too overpowered. So any of you guys that were using that cheeky little blunderbuss with the refreshing move, I know who you were in those wars, not going to be any longer with that, so do bear in mind it's not something you can roll on the weapon either, so no more refreshing move with blunderbuss, but that's not going to stop the power that it has, so do bear in mind it's still going to be really, really good. The Great Axe has pretty much stayed the same. They've made some more consistency passes on this weapon too. However, we have seen a slight nerf, if you will. However, it's just removing an unintended feature. That being said, it does affect the way that the Great Axe works if you are using the Insatiable Gravity Well perk. which 90% of people will be. Pretty much everyone who uses the Great Axe will have the Insatiable Gravwell perk on. It essentially means that you get another burst of damage coming from the actual player at the same time that the Gravity Well goes off if you have people trapped within. Now, this was providing an unintentional 1-second stun when the ability was activated to any players around the caster. That has now been removed, so it's not really any damage that you're going to be missing out on, but there is a kind of unintended stun that was there, which now isn't going to be applicable, so do bear that one in mind. Also, the Ice Gauntlet has pretty much stayed the same, so still going to be good for utility. No buffs, no debuffs, no nerfs, nothing like that, just the same as it was before. Next, looking at the Life Staff, this one hasn't had any direct weapons changes to the actual balancing of it. However, what you will notice is the options for the Life Staff have been greatly increased, giving keybind options for each different party member. However, our healers are now going to need to invest in a Razor Naga or something of that ilk if they do want to keybind all of their different party members on top of all of the other stuff. That being said, the option is there for players now, which makes this a slight buff in some ways, and of course a little bit more ease of access and much more control for the players that are healing, which is a great addition. The musket has seen some more consistency passes again, but is very much similar to before. Great in OPR, not too great in other situations. The odd player with the musket who is, you know, a gifted player, let's say, that they are really good with it, they can make a big difference in the wars, but overall it's not going to be one of the most meta weapons just yet. The rapier is pretty much the same weapon, however, riposte has been changed, so you will no longer get iframes when you go into the riposte stance. For those of you that don't know what iframes are, we're talking about immunity frames, and they are essentially, when you went into the riposte stance, you were able to not take damage for a few seconds, few milliseconds really, when you went into this position. That is no longer going to be the case, so people using riposte, do be aware you are going to take a little bit more damage if you stand still, and especially when you're not facing the opponents to riposte them, you could be in a vulnerable position, so just bear in mind positioning is going to be key with the rapier after this update. Spear is pretty much the same, again a little bit more consistency, but the sword and the shield has had a massive buff in that the shield now applies the same stat boosts as it would when equipped when it is sheathed. Now, this only does count when you have the sword equipped as well, so you must have both the sword and shield equipped for this to be the case, but it can be, you know, sheathed away and you will still get the stat bonuses. However, if you're using something like the Warhammer, the Great Axe, and then you have a shield on the back, you do not get the stat boost from that. I have tried this in the PTR, it is absolutely not the case, but it is really good for our tanks and our sword and shield users, that they will be able to consistently have the correct attributes available to them at all points, even when the sword and shield is sheathed, which is really cool. Now, next here we are looking at expeditions, and these bad boys have been fixed up quite a lot with this update and patch. So if you are someone that has not done the intended way of completing these, you cheeky guys out there that have done the cheese strategies and stuff, they've pretty much all been cleared up. We're looking at Genesis, where you could block some of the mobs and, you know, make them jump into walls, that sort of thing, all disappeared. We're also looking at Tempest's Heart, where a lot of us will know by now there was quite a few different things that you could do, lying down in certain spots to avoid taking damage and avoid aggro, etc. They have all been fixed up now, so when this patch actually drops, we will be getting the mutation version of Tempest's Heart as well, and they are going to have to be played out as intended. I'm sure some cheeky players will find extra ways to kind of get around these mechanics, but for the most part, do try and play them as intended and try and get some practice in with those modes, because that is how they are going to be going forward, and some of these are going to be significantly more difficult than they were before without these methods available to players, whether it's for time-saving methods, or to make the mutations or dungeons easier for yourself. Either way, you're now going to have to complete it as it was designed initially. Now, once this update does go live, if you are an end game player, you want to be hunting down Rafflebones in these level 60 plus areas. So we're looking at Shattered Mountains, we're looking at Eden's Grove, we're looking at Reekwater, and we are looking at Ebon Scale Reach. Now, the reason for these is because that Rafflebones, when he spawns in these level 60 plus areas, will now always be level 66, meaning that he provides that better end game tailored loot and stuff that you'll actually be able to upgrade should you want to, which is a really big bonus and is going to make him even more worth hunting down now, as he will always be at that max level in those specific zones. Now, another thing here is that the tax information that you can see in the bottom right of the screen, this does currently pop up on your HUD as you walk into the vicinity or the area of a settlement. Now, this has been changed so that this is no longer the case. When you enter a settlement, either by walking in or by teleporting, you will no longer see the tax information on the HUD. Now this is important because you do need to keep an eye out for any pesky, cheeky little companies bumping those prices up in the percentage-wise in terms of taxes. However, most companies have the property tax at the 1%, which is the highest currently, which isn't going to hit the bank too hard. And of course, most players, like I said, are already used to paying that. But do keep an eye on things like your trading tax and of course your crafting fees, should you care enough about them, because people can alter these a little bit more easily. And you do actually have to now go onto the map, click into the UI to actually have a look where the changes have been made, if there is any, and therefore it's going to be a little bit harder to see. However, most players will probably keep the taxes the same. It's just something to keep a sneaky eye out for. So that is pretty much going to be it for this video. Hopefully these tips and tricks and kind of like an update overview gives you guys the upper hand when going into the April update. As well as the changes I've mentioned here today, there have been tons of balancing updates. There have been tons of quality of life stuff, which I've covered previously on the channel as well. But these things are mostly things that are going to be directly affecting gameplay. So hopefully this can help a few of you guys out. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do be sure to drop me a subscribe and a like down below if you haven't already done so, as they both massively help to support my content here on the channel. And if you do want to directly support me as a creator here on YouTube, the membership options are available below today's video as well. Other than that, guys, that is going to be it for today. So thank you for your time, thank you for watching, and I will catch you again very shortly with a brand new upload here on the channel. Take care, guys, and peace.